Hello and welcome to today's webinar on integrating flexible plastic packaging into a circular economy. I'm Tim Sykes, Brand Director at Packaging Europe, and I'm very much looking forward to exploring today's topic together with 5 speakers from DOW. DOW's strategic focus for a number of years has been on developing materials to facilitate a more sustainable packaging market. And as I'm sure you're aware in the audience, there are very powerful regulatory and societal drivers of this goal of ensuring plastic packaging is economically recyclable. The value chain also faces significant challenges in bringing this about. In today's webinar, we'll be discussing these challenges and hopefully learning about potential solutions around design for recyclability, recycling and the recycling technologies themselves, incorporating PCR into packaging, and finally, bio-based feedstocks. Helping guide us through these topics, I'm delighted to be joined today by a group of experts from DOW. We have Marco ten Bruggenkate. He's Commercial VP of Packaging and Specialty Plastics. Romain Cazenave, Group Marketing Director for Packaging EMEA. Karin Katzer, Global Pack Studios Marketing Director. Carolina Gregorio, who is EMA Lead Marketing Manager for Food and Specialty Packaging. And last but not least, Judith Hicks, Senior Comms Manager for Sustainability, who will be moderating the discussion today. Unfortunately, we were also going to be joined by Kate Garrity, but she's unable to join us. Before I hand over to Judith, just a few little bits of housekeeping. First of all, we will have a bit of time at the end of the webinar reserved for Q&A. If you have any questions that you'd like to put to our panel today, please use the direct message on your screen and send those to us. We'll see how many we can get through. You can do this throughout the entire webinar, and we'll do our best to answer them. If you have, on the other hand, any technical questions, please address these also through the messaging app to Kane Brennan, and he'll try and help you. With that, I'd like to hand over to Judith Hicks, who'll be chairing the discussion, who's going to start off with an introduction and exploration of the marketing trends.
Good afternoon, Tim, and thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here today and chairing the presentations this afternoon. As you said, my name is Judy Hicks, and I'm the Communications Manager for Sustainability and Advocacy for our plastics and packaging business. So we're going to kick off with an introduction to our 4-pillar approach to circularity and sustainability. And for this, we are joined by Marco ten Bruggenkate. Good afternoon, Marco.
Hey, good afternoon, Judy.
Good afternoon. So, Marco, it would be remiss of us not to start by talking about COVID-19. Can you summarize for us how this will affect the plastics industry, if at all? And will it affect Dow's circularity and sustainability strategy?
Yeah, thanks, Judy. And it's a good question, but the answer is absolutely not. And why not? Well, look at the newspaper articles which are coming out. You can see that many eyes are on the recovery package from the European Union, which is very squarely linked to the ambitions of the Green Deal, which is linked to circularity, obviously, and the CO2. So no, from a European perspective, I don't see any change. And I'll talk about our own ambition in a second, but I do want to take the opportunity also to make a comment around the recyclers who, under COVID-19, in the plastic industry have had a very hard time where they had to stop their operations and are seeking for support under the COVID package as well, which we wholeheartedly support, as they're an integral part of the whole Green Deal and the circularity efforts. But back to Dow's ambitions. Dow's ambitions in the sense of circularity, we are ready, and we are also having a great sense of urgency. So we have solutions today for the value chain, which we can deploy and support our customers with. We also put together a very clear path for any and each of the pillars you see underneath on the slide to be able to continue to develop that. And why is that important? Well, it's important because the European Union is focusing to go to recycling rates up to 50% by 2025. And if you think about that, that constitutes a major shift from where we are today, because today most of the recycling we get away with rigid packaging. That won't work anymore. We will need to recycle flexible packaging. And if we start to do that, we will need to look at solutions on how we're actually going to do that. So when I look at our 4 pillars, and the first one being designed for recyclability, we're really starting to think with the end in mind. So making that design of that packaging suitable for the recycler and making it a desirable raw material without compromising, obviously, on the functionality of the packaging, which is absolutely key. So it's not an either or, it should ultimately be supporting both of these elements. As said, we've got a whole range of solutions for the value chain already available today, and many of those solutions are actually on the shelf with many of the retailers throughout Europe. If I look at the mechanical part of everything, it is a very important part of what we will offer, and our aim is to upgrade the overall quality of post-consumer recycles so it can actually be used in more applications as well as in higher quantities. And the question you can ask yourself is, why is this actually important? Well, it's important for a couple of reasons for anyone in the value chain. First of all, there is a great likelihood that there will be a more stringent approach towards a mandatory content of post-consumer recycle, up to the tune of even 30%. And is there enough volume available? Yes, there will be enough volume available if you think about the recyclability targets which the European Union sets. And our aim is to help you in the value chain to convert that into economical solutions. The third pillar on feedstock recycling, you really need to look at that as a complementary pillar towards mechanical recycling. Really what it is we're diverting plastic waste which cannot be used from a mechanical perspective and is typically used for incineration for energy, for example. What we're doing here is the plastics which are actually coming out of feedstock recycling, they're actually going to be used with properties as virgin-like, and they can be used in all sorts of application, also the food contact material ones, where typically the mechanical recycled plastics are very much challenged. And then the last pillar, bio. There's a lot of confusion around the actual definition of what is an actual biomaterial. And we know that in the Circular Plastics Plan 2.0, the EU is actually looking to actually harmonize those definitions. And what we're using is not a material which is biodegradable, but it's really a material which is based upon a bio-sourced feedstock. And that doesn't compete with either the food source or for land. And in that sense, we feel very comfortable offering this solution to the market. And again, that's also available already today.
So thank you very much, Marco, for that introduction. So we're going to start with going into a deeper dive into design for recyclability with Roman Casanov. So Roman, good afternoon. It's worth pointing out, Roman, that most of our listeners will believe that the primary function of flexible packaging is actually to protect the product inside and protect food, something we also believe in clearly. However, very few people outside our industry can actually make the connection of reducing food waste and lower carbon emissions. Surely this is something that's going to be even more significant for our industry.
I think there is a major perception with packaging, which is plastic leaking into the ocean, and all the benefits of packaging is not audible right now because we've got this littering issue, this waste management, and we have packaging ending in the wrong place, meaning our environment. So you are totally right. Packaging has a lot of advantages, a lot of function and functions, but until it's properly managed through the entire life and moving from the linear to the circular economy, we will have this image deficit, and the benefits of packaging will be difficult to be highlighted and appreciated by a large audience. So if we look at the benefits of flexible packaging, especially, the first one would be cost and energy efficiency. with very little amount of material, you can safely pack a significant amount of goods and food. And the best example, the best illustration, if you go to a developing economy, you will see that the vast majority of the packaging are flexible packaging. Once you adopt packaging with the latest technology, you go for the most efficient one. The challenge in terms of design for recyclability is to maintain the properties of packaging. And I call these the 3P: the promotion, the protection, and the processability. And the whole challenge is, as Marco was saying, it's not either or, but and. It's recyclability and maintaining promotion, protection, processability. Promotion: if you go to a supermarket, you've got few seconds to attract customer attention and promote your brand, promote your product, and create this desire for your product. And it's where packaging is extremely important for the brands. Protection: I think that with COVID, there is no discussion that food protection and food safety is crucial to everybody. Let's not forget that in the EU Green Deal, there is also a target of 50% food waste reduction. And these packaging has a key role to play here, because if you want to achieve those ambitious targets, you will need to have efficient packaging. And processability: here we speak about the filling lines. Let's not forget that we've got very efficient lines that are used to work at high speed, high efficiency. And here the game is to maintain this high efficiency while being recyclable. Again, it's not either or, it's and it's and for the 3: promotion, protection, and processability.
And I mean, you talk about processability. Many of our customers have invested in large pieces of machinery and equipment. And the understanding has been that monomaterials are traditionally quite difficult for processability and efficiency. Is this still the case?
It is an opportunity for collaboration and innovation, I would say. And on the next slide, you will see all the sets of technology that we have developed in order to maintain the promotion, the protection, and the processability, as you mentioned, with recyclability. How we can move from a polyester PE structure to a PP structure to have monomaterial and being a desirable waste for the recyclers. So we can start with monopolyethylene films. Sometimes we can decrease simply the complexity of the film, but for the processability, you need a higher stiffness. And here we develop stiffness toughness resins in order to have this mono P film. If you look at the promotion, here you need the print protection, and we can apply a polyethylene layers on the P films to protect and ensure nice branding and printing throughout the logistic chain. P orientation technology is where there is the most development and where collaboration is really key. If you haven't heard about MDO, BOP, or triple bubble, please stay tuned, because these are the 3 technologies that are really eating the shelf right now. It's not project, it's really already commercially available. Basically, when you orient polyethylene in 1 or 2 directions, what you do is you increase the stiffness, which is excellent for the processability. You increase the toughness, excellent for the protection, and you increase the optics, which is excellent for the promotion. So really, this orientation technology, we are extremely positive, extremely we're happy with the development we are having, because this is a key enabler to maintain protection, promotion, and processability while using monopolyethylene structure. Polyamide substitution: when you do thermoforming, usually you've got a layer of polyamide. Here again, very efficient for processability and protection, but much more challenging for recycling. And here we've developed extremely tough polyethylene that can substitute polyamide in the structure. Barrier incorporation: for food protection, you may have halox or metallization coating on the film. Traditionally, it's done on oriented polypropylene or oriented polyester PET. What we've done, again, in collaboration with our partner, is apply the orientation to remove the elasticity of the film and apply a barrier layers through metallization. Next one is barrier polymer compatibilization. Most of the time, barrier is obtained through the usage of EVOH, which is a polymer which tend not to be very compatible with polyethylene. What we can do is incorporate in the structure a compatibilizer. Then when you will recycle the film, the pouch, you will have an even dispersion of the EVOH through the polyethylene web, and you don't have a poor quality recycling. Conversion process development here, it's about maintaining the function and the convenience of the packaging with spouted pouches, for example. How could you insert a HDP spout into a full polyethylene spout? Is by innovation technology and applying the heat directly on the spout, pre-metalled the spout, insert it into the pouch. And finally, digitalization. There is a lot of development, and we don't have neither the time nor the money to do all the trial and error. And through digitalization, we can forecast the behavior of the pouch. And when we move to prototyping, we've got 99.5% chance of success because we have digitally tested the pouch ahead. On the next slide, I've got a couple of highlights of solutions that are already available or in advanced development. The orientation technology, here again, we're speaking about MDO and oriented polyethylene for the stiffness, for the optics, and for the toughness of the film. And here we are replacing PET. Again, moving away from polyester polyethylene film to polyethylene film. Barrier incorporation, partnership with BOPS for metallization of polyethylene film. And here we are replacing oriented polyester metallized. For the thermoforming, on the processability of the film, we are replacing polyamide with our extremely tough polyethylene, and triple bubble, which is really a breakthrough technology, extrusion technology, that allow a unique stiffness, toughness / optics, and you can remove the lamination process. So a lot of development to simplify. The whole thing is really simplify, decomplexify packaging in order to fit packaging with the circular economy, maintaining all the function and all the advantages.
Thank you very much, Roman. So now we're going to be joined by Karen Katzer, who's actually going to take us through some real life examples of design for recyclability. Good afternoon, Karen.
Hello, hi, good afternoon, Judy. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm very happy now to share with you some real life examples. I think Romain introduced very nicely our platform, and this is theory, so I really want to show you now some real life examples and obviously invite you all to also work with us and eventually bring some further of these nice examples to the market. So the first one I really want to highlight is a new OLPE pouch, which we have worked together with Reckitt Benckiser to replace basically the incumbent polyester PE structure with an OLPE solution. So how did we do that? We brought together basically our material science capabilities, our platforms, which Romain has introduced so nicely. Obviously, the conversion expertise from Trugpol, our partner, our conversion partner, our customer here. And finally, Reckitt Benckiser marketing expertise, and came up with a, I would say, really innovative solution. It's a solution based on extrusion coating technology. So we are not using an adhesive, and this means obviously that the recycling you finally get out of that has high quality. In addition, we established a life cycle analysis with Denkstadt. And I would say the results are, I would say, fantastic. I just want to share with you, we, for example, reduced the carbon footprint by half. So comparing obviously to a traditional cardboard packaging. The energy demand was also cut by 40%, and the water consumption was cut by 75% when using the old PE pouch compared to a cardboard packaging. Last but not least, I also want to mention that this pouch won gold prize at the DOW Packaging Innovation Award last year, so in 2019. And this is also a friendly reminder. So we will have our Packaging Innovation Award this year again. The nominations are still open until mid-July. So if you have a similar innovative solution, please go and nominate yourself. Yeah.
Thanks, Karen. One of the things you touch upon there briefly is the LCA, the life cycle assessment.
Yeah.
What is this? Why is this important?
Yeah, what is the life cycle analysis? So the life cycle analysis is a tool, right? It's a tool to really quantify the total environmental impact of a product. And by really looking at the entire life cycle, which means from cradle to grave. So we are, for example, looking, when we take this example here, we were looking at the measures in terms of producing the material, transporting the material, producing the pouches down to the recycling of the material. And it's a very nice tool. So if you have various solutions available and you really want to be conscious in terms of the best sustainable offering, you go for a life cycle analysis, and this tool will give you the answer.
Thank you, Karen.
Good. So let's go to the next one. The next one is an example from North America, and it's again a full PE solution we implemented together with Beer Naked. The challenge here was obviously, again, we need to comply with the physical requirements, the machinability, with the look and feel of the product, but this time the challenge was also to implement barrier performance. The incumbent product, again, was a polyester PE, but this time with an allox layer, which I think Romain already mentioned before, to achieve the barrier requirements to really keep the granola crunchy. Yeah. Our solution now is a 9-layer coax film, so again, no adhesive, to really, again, ensure a high-quality recycle. And in order to meet the barrier performance, we implemented a very thin layer of EVOH and Retain. So Retain, just introduced by Romain, the compatibilizer, which ensures, again, a high-quality recycle when after the product is recycled. And another very important aspect I want to highlight here is that the bag has been also qualified for the How to Recycle logo, which you can see on the bottom right of the slide, which means people can bring the empty pouches back for store drop-off in the US. Yeah, so I think these were the key highlights I wanted to share here.
It's a great story. We talk a lot about collaboration. How does a collaboration with us normally work?
In principle, the collaboration can work in any way, right? I think the collaboration always has one thing in common. It starts with a problem, it starts with an unmet need, it starts with an idea, right? And this idea or problem can come from anyone in the value chain. It's from the converter, from our customer, from brand owner, from retailer. And the objective here in collaboration is that we collaborate. We don't work alone, because our strong belief is that together we can solve things better and faster. And this is really, I think, the idea and the concept behind our collaboration. And in this collaboration, we bring the partners through the entire value chain on the table, and really applying everybody's expertise to solve the problem. From our side, obviously, the strong know-how what we have is in terms of material science capability. We have various modeling tools. We have our back studios where we can do a lot of prototyping. So, but in essence, the knowledge of the entire value chain is valid to really bring speed to the market and bring products to the market fast.
Thank you very much, Karen. Over to you, Tim.
Thank you very much, Judith. We now have time for the first of two polls that we're going to be putting to you, the audience, today. We're really interested in your input on these questions. So we'll have about 2 minutes now to ask you to vote on screen. We're going to be asking you about the biggest hurdles that you find in implementing polyethylene-based monomaterial solutions. Is it, first of all, cost? Secondly, line efficiency. Thirdly, package performance. And I guess here we're thinking about things like shelf appeal, shelf life, package integrity. Is it fourthly, alternative materials? Or finally, collection and recycling infrastructure? So if you could have a little think about that and select on the screen what you think is the biggest hurdle. Karen, I know you are working day to day in Pack Studios and talking to stakeholders across the value chain. Are these the kinds of challenges that you're discussing? Do you, without wanting to influence our audience how they vote, do you have any sense of what challenges?
I think these are really the key challenges and the key points we really want to better understand. I think I highlighted two examples. The question is, why don't we see more already on shelf? Obviously, we are working on several more, which also Romain has addressed before, but yes, it's still slow, right? And what we also want to understand on what do we need to work on, right? I mean, eventually on some of the things we don't have direct impact, but if, for example, line efficiency or the performance is some of the key I would say backholders, then this is something we can address and we want to know from the audience obviously.
Great. So I'll just give the audience another 5 seconds to make their mind up, and then we'll take a look and see what the hive mind of this webinar thinks is the greatest hurdle. Right, let's close it off now. And can we take a look at these answers? So,
wow,
interesting. Package performance has come out as by far the strongest of these hurdles. Judith or Karen, do you have any? Do these results surprise you at all?
I think it's great for me. If I can answer very quickly, it's very surprising. Yeah. The packaging performance, I would have thought is more cost, right? Because obviously cost is a key element, and when we talk to brands, they are very cost sensitive. So I'm surprised, I must say. But something to give us a hint, we have to do more and we have to still work on better solutions.
Yes, yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much to the audience for voting. We'll be back in a moment for another poll. And first of all, now I'll hand over to Judith again.
So thank you, Tim. So now we're moving on to recycling, and Marco is back to take us through this. Marco, it's all very well that we're able to put recyclable applications and products onto the market, but if the recycling systems are not in place, and if there's no clear harmonization for recycling systems, there's not much point creating a recyclable application, is there?
Yeah, you bring up a very good point. I think if you take a step back, I think it's very important to remember that we need to have recyclable packages by 2030. And it's really important to then understand what is a recyclable package, because a recyclable package is not just a package which can be recycled, it must also be recycled. That means it needs to be collected, it needs to be sorted, and ultimately be recycled. And that is something which is a far more comprehensive and elaborate definition of recyclable. And that's something to be aware of. Now, obviously, we're already collecting and sorting throughout Europe. There is a variety of EPR schemes in the many different countries who are taking care of recycling the films and flexibles. However, in order to be able to do that, to also meet that 50% recycling rate, which the European Union sets, there needs to be a very clear investment into recyclers, in sorting systems, to be able to extract the films and the flexibles to be able to ultimately recycle them and make that goal a reality as well. The benefit for the brand owner is very much rewarded by good design. So what does that mean? That basically means that those who are actually using recyclable packaging will be rewarded with lower EPR fees, also called lower eco-modulated EPR fees. The ones which are not and are more problematic to recycle will see the opposite. So in essence, what you're going to see is a significant drive across the value chain in terms of innovation, but particularly also when it comes to the recyclers, investment in collection, sorting, and ultimately also the development of the end product to make that goal a reality. Maybe if you go to this slide, you actually see very clearly that it's really at the heart of what we do from a mechanical recycling approach, and it all comes back again to the design for recycling, which Romain very clearly talked about. And ultimately, what we want to do is we want to provide, first of all, compatibilizers, which can be used to upgrade the mixed plastic waste to ultimately get a more consistent and higher performing post-consumer recycle product. But also, when you talk about innovation, thinking about one product solutions whereby the post-consumer recycle is actually already integrated within the product itself, and helping then our customers in that way to reduce their EPR fees. That also goes when you talk about incorporating. We need to walk the talk ourselves as well. As a result, we're introducing post-consumer recycle in our own heavy-duty shipping bags, and applying also the same rigorous testing protocols to obviously make sure that ultimately the functionality, which actually just came back from the poll as well, is safeguarded, and we still adhere to the same performance. Maybe if you go to the next slide, Judy, what is important on the next slide is actually, it's an example from the value chain to kind of show a different way of working together. What you're seeing is a whole range of applications, and those applications are actually application where we're currently working on to be able to get the post-consumer recycle into. And it's a small reminder of what we're actually working on. You'll see the artificial turf, where we have efforts ongoing. The heavy-duty shipping bags was already mentioned. At the same token, you see the stretch wrap, as well as the collation shrink. I think it's important to mention that with any and each of this can only be successful to the extent that we work and collaborate with the value chain together to enable that. And that's also an element where we have our platform called Pack Studios, where we collaborate and innovate with the industry to be able to come up with these type of solutions.
So on to feedstock recycling. DOW, obviously, we have a clear ambition here for feedstock or chemical recycling. We're investing here. But can you emphasize why it is so important, not only for us, but for the industry?
Yeah, it's a really good point. We talked about the recycling targets and the ambition of the European Union to be able to get to 50% recycling rates. Quite frankly, that will be very, very difficult to achieve without feedstock recycling. And feedstock recycling, basically what it does is anything which is not, or which cannot be mechanically recycled or would not be suitable for sensitive applications like food contact ones, those are all of a sudden opportunities for feedstock recycling. So in essence, you turn that challenge into an opportunity and link it back to the EU's ambition of achieving that 50%. Now, there are many plastics which cannot be mechanically recycled. So we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to be able to use those plastics into a feedstock recycling setup. The other element which is really important is that unlike with mechanical recycling, feedstock recycling makes the plastic infinitely recyclable. And it really eliminates the need for downcycling, which normally would be the case after several times of mechanically recycling. So if you would turn to the next slide, let me give you a little bit of an idea of what we're doing in DOW in terms of feedstock recycling. Without turning this into a chemistry lesson, I really want to kind of emphasize the fact that ultimately what we're doing here is breaking down mixed plastic waste into their original form to manufacture ultimately, again, new virgin polymers. And those polymers which we'll produce, they're identical. They're identical to the ones which we would produce based upon fossil fuel-based ones. And there's two ways of doing that. There is the gasification route and there is the pyrolysis route. Now, both routes come with pluses and minuses. And to keep it relatively simple, the gasification route is a more complex one, more capital intensive. And ultimately what you would do is you would turn a syngas through a variety, you would turn the plastic waste into a syngas through a variety of processes and ultimately turn that into a polyethylene. On the pyrolysis route, you basically take polyolefins waste plastic and you turn that back into a naphtha. And once that's cleaned up from impurities, you basically use that back into a cracker and turn it back into a virgin-like polyethylene. And this route is a little bit simpler, less capital intensive. However, it does require that you then use at that point polyolefin waste plastics, whereas in gasification, you have a little bit of a broader choice in terms of waste you use. What I would say is that when you look at our vision for feedstock recycling, we do believe it's going to be a very elementary and important part of our strategy going forward. We believe also that this technology fits very well with our material science capabilities. It's complex, it's massive in scale, it's things we know very well. It's handling dangerous chemicals. We're very well aware of process safety and how to handle that. And we've developed a very clear roadmap to ultimately become a solutions provider with regards to circular polyethylene. So maybe if you go to the next slide, and I'll give you an example of how we intend to do that. You will remember that in August 2019, we actually sent out a press release on announcing a collaboration with Phoenix, a technology provider from the Netherlands. And that collaboration should ultimately reside in us building up capacity in the Netherlands at our or close to our Terneuzen facilities to be able to start really walking the talk. And we've significantly progressed since August 2019. In many cases, these technologies are still being scaled up, and that's what we've been working on with the partners. And this is a whole value chain approach as well, as you can see. But stay tuned, there is soon more to come on this, as well as throughout the rest of 2020, whereby we will put our feet to the accelerator to really put more meat to the bone with regards to our roadmap for feedstock recycling.
Thank you, Marco. But just one more point, some clear opportunities, but any challenges do you see for feedstock recycling?
Yeah, absolutely. So the obvious one is the technology itself. The technology has been around for many years, but scaling it up to the stage where we're doing it now, that's obviously a different thing. And that requires innovation, not just from us, that requires innovation from the industry. So a lot of investment in R&D as well as in steel in the ground is needed to be able to build that up and get comfortable and start to learn. And that's happening. The industry is embracing it. They all feel that this is a solution going forward. I think the more important part is collection. If you think about it, we can put all the feedstock recycling units in place, but without having access to the right feedstock, it's not going to work. So we need to make sure we are collecting plastic in Europe. And even more so when we collect it, divert it away from landfills or incineration back to as a feedstock for feedstock recycling. We would love to see bans on landfill and redirect that to people like ourselves. The other element is sorting. And I touched upon that earlier on. It's really important that there is investment in sorting equipment, because particularly for pyrolysis, not all waste or not all polyolefin plastics waste can be thrown in. So you really want to make sure you've got a relatively clean stream of plastics coming out, and that does require investment also to be able to reach the 50% target again.
Thank you very much, Marco. So we're now going to be looking at a really innovative and inspiring part of our portfolio. It's the bioplastics, and this with Carolina Gregorio. Good afternoon, Carolina.
Good afternoon, Judith. Yes, I will be very pleased to guide you through the main elements of our bio-based plastics offering, which is available here and now, and how it will be able to offer you concrete benefits in terms of reduction of carbon footprint and fossil-derived plastics, which are two objectives that are very much aligned probably to your sustainability goals, being packaging producers and packaging users. So what is unique in our bio-based plastics offering, and what is different from others that you might see available in the marketplace? We are using as a bio-feedstock a residue that is coming from paper production industry that it used to be a waste stream. So this is not competing with food chains, as Marco was mentioning before, and on top of that, is not using or competing as well with arable land resources, which is very important. It's as well as the circular polymers that Marco was presenting before, they are drop-in solutions. What does this mean? They have the same characteristics and performance versus fossil-derived plastics, which is very easy then for all of you to use them as you were using a standard material in your final application. So the time to go to market could be quite quick because no requalifications are needed. The entire value chain is ICC Plus certified by Mass Balance by ICC. ICC is standing for International Sustainability and Carbon Certification, which is an international certification scheme which handles a different variety of alternative sustainable biofeedstocks and as well circular feedstocks, and has a very big reputation in the marketplace. We are offering as well a broad product offering across two different sites of production that are already certified in Europe. We started with bio low-density polyethylene resins, DOW LDPR, calling this R by renewable. We then expanded at the offering beginning of this year to bio LLDP resins, such as, for example, Dowless and Elite. And we just recently added as well bio polyolefin plastomers and polyolefin elastomers, such as, for example, our well-known affinity plastomers for high-performance sealants applications. The other very significant and concrete benefit that many packers and brand owners are telling us, this is quite important for them, is that our bio-based plastics are able to reduce significantly the carbon footprint along the supply chain. Significantly means 3 times in order of magnitude, and this is as well something very appreciated by packers we are speaking with.
So just to touch on that point again, why is the carbon footprint? Why is claiming less carbon footprint so important?
We hear as I was telling, from packaging producers and packaging consumers, so brand owners, this is a key element as part of their sustainability agendas and goals. So as part as well of the Green Deal in Europe, everybody's looking to reduce those carbon emissions along their operations, right? Why is so significant in our bio-based offering? We have calculated our own internal CI experts has calculated these carbon estimates using the BioNafta supply partner information, UPM biofuels we work with, and as well several sustainability databases that are existing like EcoInvent to come with the different contributions along the production process and steps and even supply chain to come with such significant reduction that is 3 times less in order of magnitude as was mentioning before. Here you have a picture of what the first commercial application that we have with our bio-based plastics solutions, which is with our developmental customer and partner Elopak for liquid cartons for beverages, so milk and juices. And you have here that our bio-based plastics are used in the inner layer of the carton for integrity and as well in the cap. But this is just the beginning, because you move, Judith, please, to the next slide. We are expanding the application reach, working in close collaboration with value chain partners. And our bio-based plastics are already commercial in a wide variety of different applications beyond liquid cartons that we started with. So we want to put here like concrete examples. The first one is a bio-based polyethylene label for pressure-sensitive labels that are used in home and personal care packaging applications. For example, in this case, you see the picture here, but I have here a prototype as well for a bottle for organic shampoo done in collaboration with our value chain partners, Polyfilm and UPN Raflatac, you see here. The second example goes into a flexible food packaging market space. And we have here as well a commercial example coming from our developmental partner, BPAC. That is an spout pouch for baby puree, for a monodose pouch, you see here. That is as well containing a high content of renewables based resins in the total package. And the last example on your right on the screen, you see as well bio-based cast stretch films that are able to reduce significantly the carbon footprint and without compromising the low stability during the supply chain, done in collaboration with our partner Doxapax. So with that as a summary, I want to reinforce that our bio-based plastics offering is here and now available. We are very much looking forward to understand from your side your interests, your current and future needs, and how can we work together. And on top of that, we keep on working very heavily to understand how we want to grow our offering to support your growth with our current partner, UPN Biofuels, and as well other alternative biofeedstocks sources that we are in exploration mode as we speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carolina. And just to go back to a couple of the points you've made, you talk about mass balance approach. It's quite complex. Why is it important? What is it? Why is it important? Just to reiterate.
Yes, mass balance is indeed a concept which is creating some controversial still in the market, because there are a lot of confusion still around that. So it's a system that is internationally recognized by several organizations that are very well known in the industry, like, for example, Ellen MacArthur Foundation. They have published a one-pager document only talking about that mass balance approach. And the system helps to trace the flow of biofeedstocks along complex supply chains. At DOW, we are co-feeding in our operations the biofeedstocks, right, with a standard naphtha. Why we are doing that? To avoid system duplications and cost inefficiencies, because that will be creating more issues rather than solving the issues, right? But then we need to use mass balance approach to make sure we track and ensure that the quantities of biofeedstocks we are using in our production processes are matching the quantities of the bio-based materials we are commercializing and producing. And as well, we are allowing as well to reassign the bio attributes characteristics to certain time of the production. So those resins, as a default, can be labeled as 100%, up to 100% bio-based by ICC Plus following this mass balance approach.
Thank you. And just one last point. There still seems to be a degree of confusion over bioplastics, getting it mixed up with biodegradable. Is it the same? What is the difference?
Yeah, that's another question that is popping up frequently in our discussions, right? So it's not the same. I think it was also mentioned before in the webinar. Bio-based plastics are the ones that are produced using biofeedstocks as opposed to fossil fuels. While biodegradable plastics are the ones that are degraded in the nature by living organisms, and this is the main characteristics. But doesn't matter that they can be produced either from biofeedstocks or from fossil fuels. Has nothing to do with the feedstock being used for that production. And that we believe plastics, they do not belong to the environment, and that's why it's not in our sustainability strategic intent to offer biodegradable plastics, because we believe that could be creating some confusion for customers that could be perceived that biodegradable plastics, when they are back of the package, they can be throw away that package after use, so causing a litter issue that is far away from what we want really to do. Basically, we want to avoid that issue and contribute to reduce that issue worldwide, as we just discussed. On top of that, if there is not existing a separate infrastructure for compostability, separate collection, which is normally the case, where it's very limited in a spread, what is causing as well is those biodegradable packages were deposited in the flexible packaging or packaging recycling bin that are impacting negatively the overall recyclability. So that's why we want to stick in our commitment to offer bio-based plastics and keep on exploring the way to basically increasing our offering in the future to support future growth needs from our customers.
Thank you, Carolina. So over to you, Tim.
Thank you, Judith. So we have, it's time now for our second interactive poll for the audience, and we're going to stick on this topic of bio-based plastics. Could I also say that we had some feedback from a couple of people on in the audience saying that they weren't able to vote in the last poll. If you want to vote and you're for some reason unable to do so, you can register your choice in the chat, and we'll make sure that that's reflected once we collate the statistics afterwards. So here's the question. What are the key criteria for you when considering bio-based plastic options? Is it number one, price? Number two, non-food, either direct or indirect competition, carbon footprint savings, fourthly, availability, or fifthly, biocontent traceability in final resin. So we'll again have about a minute and a half to look at those, make your choices. So Carolina, do you see bio-based as very much a consumer-driven growing niche in the packaging market?
Yes, indeed. We see a huge market interest, right? That of course the packers are as well benefiting from the key value propositions as we discussed, right? Of bio-based or renewable materials utilization, which is as much in sometimes very much linked to their branding attributes of the final package. For example, if they want to package organic foods or organic products, they're looking for that. And as well, carbon footprint savings, as far as we also have been speaking through the value chain, we hear that this is one of the major drivers. But that's the reason for the question, right? We want to listen from the audience what they consider the key drivers and understand then how we can improve our offering in the future, right?
Yeah, great. Okay, so I think our time is up. Let's have a look at the results, can we? Okay, so price has emerged as the number one answer, followed by carbon footprint savings. Does there anything strike you as surprising there, in Carolina?
Not really. I'm laughing because indeed we of course we didn't touch base, you know, because this is part of one-to-one conversations. But of course the price is higher, significantly higher as well. The benefits are big, but the price is much higher. Of course, this could be a showstopper. This will always be a niche market, as I was referring to, right? And only a certain part of the products that could be having an extra margin, you know, and this will be part of the package, will be part of the value proposition of the product, will make sense, right? But I mean, okay, it's good to see as well that feedback in direct from the audience. Thanks for that.
Okay, great. Judith, I'm passing back to you.
Right, so I think we're going to head into a Q&A, and Tim, you're going to manage that. But before I leave the discussion, I have a question for you, Tim. You're someone who sits in the industry. You have a very good overview, but you're outside DOW. What effects, challenges, or even opportunities do you think COVID-19 is going to have for the industry?
Great question, Judith. Indeed, for the last couple of months, everyone's been asking themselves and each other, I suppose, about the implications of COVID-19. And I guess I can answer this question both anecdotally from my contacts with people across the value chain, and slightly more objectively because Packaging Europe conducted a survey of the industry around the start of April. So we did sort of collate some more broadly based sort of feedback on this. What we found was that the first questions and conversations and worries that people had were about those immediate challenges to productivity, and then the conversation began to shift towards the longer term implications of the pandemic for the industry. In terms of productivity, we found that businesses throughout the supply chain saw either moderate or some was reporting quite significant challenges to keeping their part of the supply chain moving. Having said that, revealingly within our survey, we found that people tended to have more faith in the productivity of their own business than that of their suppliers and broader logistics challenges across the different links of the chain. We also looked at the wider implications of the pandemic on the industry within that survey. We did get a sense that it is likely to accelerate certain trends that were already visible within packaging. I guess the obvious one was e-commerce. You know, a lot of consumers are now relying on that to get most of their shopping done. Putting it into the context of the conversation we're having at the moment, of course, creates new challenges for sustainability and optimization. We're having to shift to other packaging formats and other protective challenges and things like that. So that's something that I think you know, the collaborators that you've talked about are going to have to grapple with more than ever. Automation and more investment in automation, I think, will be another of these trends that are going to be accelerated, and I think that gives us some opportunities as well to bring in more efficiencies and more visibility of where the opportunities to create those efficiencies are. We also found that a lot of people were saying that this greater focus on food safety and the integrity of the packaging might help consumers maybe better understand the positive role that is played by packaging. And I think it would be really positive if out of this terrible situation that we're all, you know, trying to find a way through, emerged a more nuanced societal understanding of packaging and sustainability, not least because we as a society really need to participate in this sort of collective mission to build a circular economy. It's not just up to the suppliers to make that happen. We need, you know, the consumers to play their role in ensuring that collection happens in the right way and that the right kind of political decisions are made to support this. At the same time, I think we also need to be very careful that we don't adopt a triumphal tone as an industry. That's not a good look at the moment, and you know, there's certainly no sense that it would be appropriate to say yes, we were right all along, and the sometimes fierce pressure that we've been under as an industry about plastic waste was all the time misguided. But I don't think there is any significant amount of this triumphalism. I think, you know, people understand. And I guess that the final question is this going to interrupt or distract us from our work on sustainability? And again, I don't think so. I think from the people I talk to, sustainability remains absolutely the number one thing on the agenda, and the circular economy in particular is the first strategic priority for the industry. Collaboration perhaps is going to be something that we, you know, all of us are working from home and struggling to work quite as efficiently as we used to, and particularly when we're talking to colleagues. And value chain collaboration has been such an important aspect of the progress we've made. I think that's probably the biggest logistical challenge at the moment with the pandemic, that we need to make sure that we continue to talk to our partners across the industry as we don't lose the momentum that we were building up.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Over to you for the Q&A if there's any time left. So.
Yes, we are running a little bit short, and not only that, but we've had an extraordinary number of questions. I think it's a record number of questions we've had for any webinars that we've hosted. We've had over 100 coming through. Sorry to members of the audience who don't have their questions answered. In fact, that's the vast majority of you who've sent them in, because I guess we've only got time for 3 or 4 questions now. Those who we can't address right now, DOW will make some arrangements to get back to you and try to address those questions later. So anyway, with no further ado, let's take a look at a first one. Marco, I think I'll put this question to you. How far are we from a commercial plan for chemical recycling, and how competitive will it be considering the actual cost of oil?
Yeah, that's a good point. So first of all, let's talk about competitiveness. I think that point I want to very clearly and squarely put aside, in the sense that we need to differentiate clearly between a virgin or a chemical recycling polyethylene product. Chemically recycled polyethylene really provides a solution for the brand owners to be able to play into the mandatory regulatory drivers with regards to recycled content. It also enables them a solution for those applications in the food contact space where they wouldn't have approval to use mechanically recycled plastics. So in that sense, they're totally different product solutions, and take into account that also there are more steps needed from a chemical recycling perspective. The price will definitely be different, but there is still the benefit also of the lower EPR fees when you use recycled content. So I don't think that will be the issue ultimately. I do believe also in the discussions we've had with many of the value chain partners that will be picked up, certainly with the landscape which evolves at the moment. How serious are we? We are very serious. And the question is more, how quickly can you scale up DOW, and how quickly can you support us? And this is what we're doing at the moment. That's why my comment earlier on was expect more from us in 2020. And we have a very clear roadmap out up until 2030, very detailed on where we want to be in terms of quantities, applications. And as said before, we want to be a very clear leader in this space to solve the problems you otherwise will have as an industry, and play our crucial role there.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you. Okay, here's a second question. I'm going to put this one to Roman. How far are we from achieving 100% recyclable packaging by 2025? And how do we make it happen in reality? So bearing in mind things like impact of collection and sorting infrastructure. Oh,
thank
Roman,
you very much,
I think
Tim.
you are, you're unmuted.
Thank you
now.
very much for your question. I think you highlight 2025, which is the target for most of the brand owners. If we look at European, the objective is by 2030. As highlighted before, there is a whole set of technology that are ready and commercially available and already adopted by some brand owners. So we are very comfortable that the vast majority of the application can be redesigned with the current technology. Let's be honest, some very challenging application like medical packaging could take some more time, but we are also working on those ones. Regarding recyclability, our main focus is design for recyclability, but recycling is design for recycling, collection, sorting, and recycling. And we're in association like CFlex, we want to make sure that design for recycling is part of the entire chain, because it's not enough to be recyclable, we want to be recycled. And that's why collection, sorting, and recycling and available markets for recycled material are equally important in order to move to a circular economy.
Thanks, Roman. So next question, I'm going to put this to Karin. How would DOW address the issue of inconsistent collection and the inability to get consumer flexibles into the recycling stream? Karen, you're muted.
It's a very fair question, because if we look at the waste management system, is a very fragmented, and it's community by community. So we want to make sure that the EPR fees are really redirected in order to subsidize the needed investment. Again, we are not looking at recyclability, we are looking at circular economy. And of course, these money collected needs to be invested in order to get the proper sorting, recycling throughout Europe. It's a very complex subject involving many parties, and a lot of money will be needed. No need to hide this fact.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have another question. What are the options currently available or may be available in the near future for incorporating PCR into flexible packaging for use with food? Maybe Roman, could you come back on this one as well?
I think the food contact is extremely challenging. If we look at EFSA, there is a very long list about a very long queue of testing. And today the legislation mentioned that you need to certify that 95% of your waste is food contact in order for your recycled material to be food contact. That means we only speak about closed loop, and we don't foresee this as developing rapidly. It's extremely complex to put into place. That's what feedstock recycling for us is a solution to provide vast amount of recycle-based material suitable for food contact.
Okay, thank you, Roman. So final question, and sorry to those who haven't had their questions answered at the moment. This one's for Carolina. Can bioplastics be recycled?
Short answer, yes. So as we spoke before, I think the key characteristic of circular polymers, right, when we have that offering available in the near future, and bio-based plastics are drop-in solutions. This is important because, coming back to the title of our webinar, they are not impacting, recyclability of the final pack. So if the package per se is already designed to be recyclable, we just described here many options, it will keep on being recyclable. So that's quick in the sense of the transition to a new solution could be quick, and also it's important because if it has been designed like this, it will not be impacted the recyclability characteristic by moving into a more sustainable alternative in terms of design, So that's why, we believe bioplastics is a very strong alternative that will have a brilliant future.
Thank you, Carolina. So just to repeat what we said earlier, there were many questions that came through, and as you can see, we're running slightly over time already. So we'll send you a full Q&A with answers to all of the questions that have come through after this webinar. So I'm afraid that is all we have time for today. Thank you very much to everyone in the audience for joining us. This webinar will be available on demand within the next couple of days. You'll be sent a link to access that in case you want to recap on what you've watched today, or if you missed any parts of it. This will also share the Q&A, and there'll also be a few useful links that you may wish to use to pursue these subjects in more detail. I believe that will also include an interesting piece of research from DOW called Stop Waste, Save Food. We're nearly finished. Just to let you know, we will be asking you a few survey questions after you leave the webinar. It'd be great if you could let us know. That just leaves me to thank our speakers, Roman, Marco, Carolina, Catherine, and Judith. Presenters, do you have anything else that you wanted to say before we left?
Thank you very much for your attention, and a great afternoon.
Thanks for being there.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, Judith.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.